when you say this country, you of course mean the United States of America, not Ecuador or Galapagos. Well, I'm not much of a reader of the zeitgeist. I'm kind of conscious that a lot of people who are discern that there is a rising movement of opposition to religion in the United States, and I think we all sense it, and I think we're all part of it, and other people here may have a better idea than I have as to what's caused it. I should like to think that books such as Sam Harris's The End of Faith, Letter to a Christian Nation, my own The God Delusion, Christopher Hitchens's God is Not Great, Victor Stenger's, help me somebody, God, the Failed Hypothesis. I think that all these books are probably having some effect. I wonder whether another part of it is that Americans are fed up after 6 years of Bush with the drift, what appears to be to many people to be a drift towards a theocracy. And it may be that a lot of people who never were religious in the first place, but felt tolerant, and as we all should be tolerant when it's necessary, and peaceful, and if people want to believe that, why shouldn't they believe it? I think maybe people in America have realized that the religious right in America is no longer playing by the rules, is no longer letting is no longer adopting a live and let live policy. And so it's possible that it's a climate of rebellion against that. And I don't know, that's one possibility. But others, I mean, I'm not American, and so I'm probably much less qualified to say than most people here.
Could you talk a little bit about the absolute loathing of atheists in the political spectrum, that almost anybody could be elected sooner than an atheist? You certainly couldn't announce it publicly. George Bush the First said that atheists don't deserve to be citizens of this country. Now there's a debate on which is worse, a Mormon or an atheist.
Well,
you can believe in anything at all,
yes,
rather than nothing.
It is an astonishing thing that people are prepared to say they'll vote for somebody who believes in anything at all.
Right.
Presumably they'll vote for somebody who believes in Wotan, Baal, rather than an atheist. One congressman, and somebody's going to help me with his name because he deserves full credit. Peter Stark, with a K, is it? Yes, Peter Stark, Congressman Peter Stark, came out having been invited to do so, I think, by this organization. Is that right or not? Yes, Secular Coalition. And he deserves great credit, and the heavens didn't open, the earth didn't open and swallow him up. He'll probably get re-elected. So maybe that's an example to everyone. I don't think I understand it. It is perfectly true that the word atheist in American cultural life has ranks approximately along with paedophile as somebody you couldn't possibly vote for. It is totally bizarre when you think that all an atheist is somebody who has a different philosophical opinion about the cosmos than you do. And the people that you're prepared to vote for, the ones who believe in anything, they believe in such a diverse variety of things that in any case, how can you possibly say you'll vote for any of them but not one who doesn't believe in any of them? You suggested that Mormons are, the toss-up is whether, yes. I mean, the Mormon religion is so obviously fake, founded by a transparent charlatan in the 19th century, Joseph Smith. I mean, nothing could be more obvious than that man was a fake and a charlatan and a liar. And yet now we have a presidential candidate who is prepared to say that he believes in this mountebank, who wrote a bogus book, the Book of Mormon, although he was writing in the 19th century, chose to write it in 17th century English. I mean, why don't people see through that? I just can't understand it. But anyway, that was a digression, Ray.
I wanted to see if I understood you correctly to say that most Americans who do have faith are extremists. Maybe I misunderstood.
No, not at all. I didn't mean to say that most Americans who have faith are extremists. What I do think is that those who are not extremists, the moderates, the bishops, the decent, intelligent Christians that you can have a conversation with, they are making the world safe for the extremists, because they are teaching us all that we have to respect faith without evidence. And if once you teach children and they grow up believing that you have to respect faith without evidence, then the world is made safe for the extremists who are going to cash in on that and say, oh, you can't criticize my desire to do something extreme, maybe even blow somebody up, because that's my faith, and my faith is immune from all criticism. It seems to me to be educationally a dismal, abysmal thing to do, to teach children that faith is a virtue, to teach children that it is a virtue to believe something for no reason at all, where there's no evidence, just because you believe it, because you believe it, because you believe it. And if children are brought up thinking that that's the right way to assemble the beliefs that they hold about the world, then extremists have a field day, because they can cash in on that.
Hi, so I agree with your argument that the preaching to the choir is actually a really good thing, even if you don't necessarily preach to everyone else. In the Beyond Belief lecture, you were talking to Joan Roughgarden about the fact that sometimes it makes sense to talk to people using a certain cognitive framework that they understand. And while I don't think it's good to dumb down things, do you think that it would be a good idea for someone such as yourself to write a book about religion in a cognitive framework accessible to those people, and what would such a book look like for you?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a good point that both approaches are valuable. And I suppose Dan Dennett's book, Breaking the Spell, which I should have mentioned already, by the way, another very important book which might well have contributed to shifting the zeitgeist. Dan Dennett's Breaking the Spell does take a more softly approach and tries to woo religious people, tries to make them feel it's not as bad as you think. Let's look at this question of religion. Let's examine it. Let's see where it comes from. We don't bite, we don't eat babies, and so on. I think there is a lot of value in that. It's not my way, and that's not what I've done, but it is what Dan Dennett's done, and I strongly recommend his book, Breaking the Spell.